This is Jay. I just got done seeing the new Scream 6 movie. All right, so if you've never seen a Scream movie before, the Scream franchise is based off of the original movie by this director named Wes Craven and written by this guy named Kevin Williamson, who is known for writing this show called Dawson Creek back in the day. Young teens, and they're very savvy for their age, and they talk kind of like adults even though they're kids. And when it came out, it was like a big deal because it was so different to have such smart, wise kids, and not just being like, having a smart mouth, but actually just intelligent and having this adult banter. So anyway, the guy who wrote it, along with this great director, Wes Craven, who's known for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. But anyway, before the movies, they always take place in this small town, Willsboro is where it normally takes place, and it's a story about this girl and this killer is going on in the town. They try to find out who the killer is. And so if you've seen those other movies, this is a continuation of that. What's interesting is Wes Craven, he passed a few years ago. And so the first time they had a new director was the fifth and the sixth one. It's interesting because the writing style is very similar to Kevin Williamson, where it's very smart and very slick and savvy and modern. But then there's two guys who's directing this one, and it's very similar to the work that Wes Craven did. So it's interesting they kind of recreated a formula with different folks, and that's usually hard to do, because usually when somebody's going like the writer or somebody's going like the director, it's a whole different movie. And these folks who did the last two, they kind of got the sauce to make it taste very close to the original franchise, to the point where I think I like this one better than even the second and third one and fourth one, and better than the fifth one that just came out maybe a year ago. This is the closest to being like the first one, even though it's been this much time that's passed and variations of killers and stuff. Each time it's a mystery on who the killer is, and every time there's a new killer, but it's always kind of tied into the lineage of the other killers. Be it somebody got inspired by it, be it was a family member, be it somebody who's fanning out and got inspired by that, so wanted to do the same thing. And so this movie, it was a trip. It's the first time it took place in New York, and like I said, normally it's in a small town. So being in New York is a trip to see it there. And it's interesting because something that normally wouldn't get away with in a small town, like somebody being attacked, in New York, it was just so many people that nobody really was paying attention. There's almost too much going on. And so these things are happening. And like you've seen the trailer, you saw like in a bodega, which is like a, I guess in West Coast to be like a liquor store, and somebody's chasing somebody down in there and just starting to, take people out, in front of everybody. And so it gave it a whole different feel being in New York. And then just the, how it feels claustrophobic because there's just so many people, and you're in a subway and you're in a small, like I said, restaurant, or you're in a small liquor store, and it's just all these people, and it's just crazy how things could happen with so many witnesses, and it doesn't stop anything. In the beginning of it, usually there's this twist where you have a person, like a real famous person, kind of featured in the beginning of the movie, and they get taken out. It's almost like you never would expect, because on the first movie, the actress Drew Barrymore, she was featured in the first movie. And to see her get taken out, it was like almost a trip. It was almost a weird thing where somebody's so famous, they never, die in movies. So for her to die and being famous, it was a trip. So it's like, well, if she could go, then anybody can get it. And so they still kind of had that tradition on this one, which made it very cool. And then they kind of took it up a notch with some other stuff that went on. I would say this is just a very intense movie. It was very violent, very visceral, very slick. It was a couple of things that kind of lean towards who it may be, but with these kind of movies, there's so many things going on that, it could just be a red herring that don't really mean anything, and they're just kind of doing it to catch you up. But it was fun enough to make you think it could be this person or that person or that person. Neve Campbell, who's normally in all the movies, she wasn't in this one. And so a lot of people was kind of wondering, would it be as good without her being in the movie? But and she plays a character named Sidney Prescott in the series, and she wasn't in this movie, and it was kind of interesting not to have her there, but the movie still kind of carried on. And I think it kind of carried on because they had such good actors in it. They had like Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son, Mason Gooding, he's in there, and Jenna Ortega, which is she's very popular from the Netflix series Wednesday. And so that's a trip to have her her in this. And it's funny because she wasn't even like the main character. The main character is somebody else, but it seemed like her career is just jumping. So even though she's not the main focus, and she's kind of like the co-lead of the movie, it's kind of like you just kind of gravitate to her. So it's funny how that could go, how somebody's set up to be the lead or a star, and then it'd be the sidekick that ends up being the more popular character that people relate to. It almost reminds me of the MTV Teen Wolf reboot, where the main guy who played, Scott, the main character, his buddy Styles, he turned out to be, a bigger movie star and actor, even though he wasn't really slated to be that. So that happens sometimes. But it was a good thriller, a lot of action, a lot of twists, very suspenseful, very violent, very fun. I had you guessing for a long time. And even if you do figure it out early, it's still a fun ride. It's one of those I think I would even end up watching again, even though I know the ending. And so these kind of movies are very hard to do, because a lot of times the main character, especially the main character in this, has been like, they did like spin-off movies that are silly rip-offs of this movie. They make joke movies about that mask and stuff and that kind of a thing. So it's funny that it still felt like unnerving and kind of scary and tense for a character that's been done and made fun of in other movies and stuff. So I really enjoyed it. I would definitely see it again. I saw it in 3D because that was a showing that was going on at the time, but it didn't need to be in 3D. There was nothing about it that needed 3D. I think in a way it probably made me feel a little bit more claustrophobic because 3D kind of pulls it in, but for the most part, you really don't need it. But the people who went to the 3D showing of it got a movie poster, so that'll make up for the difference I had to pay for the 3D. But I thought it was pretty good. And I would definitely suggest it if you are into the franchise. And if you were in the franchise before and you got kind of bored and tired with it because it seemed like it kind of lost its way, then this one is back on track. And I think that it's time to come back to give it a chance for sure. And it's just a fun movie, but it is violent and a lot of closed spaces. But the characters are well developed and funny and strong. And the characters you've seen before, you're glad to see them again. And the new characters that's on there now, they're fun too. And just the dynamics between everybody and how they interact and the old faces that they bring back. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So I highly suggest it. Go check it out. All right, so that was Jay. Until next time, peace.